What's your name and where are you from?
Hi, I'm Luke Remedios. I'm one half of Sam and Luke, and I'm the Luke half. And I grew up half my life in California and the other half in Vancouver, Canada. And now I'm in Nashville.
Why did you feel the need to move to Nashville? Why did you have to move to Nashville?
I felt the need to move to Nashville because me and my brother had been playing in Vancouver, and we were getting a lot of support from the community for our music. And we had come to Nashville and made a record with Colin Linden, um, and we had never been to Nashville before, and it was such an interesting community with the songwriters. We had Colin set up songwriting appointments to for us to write with other writers to get the songs for the record, and we had never really written with any other songwriters besides each other, and we really enjoyed that aspect of Nashville, and we really fell in love with Nashville, and we really felt that Nashville was the place to come to further our music career.
Tell me about some of the stuff that you left behind or you sacrificed when you left Canada to come to Nashville.
When we left Canada, we sacrificed our time with our friends. When we left, we basically left all of our support community, everybody we knew. We moved down with me and my brother Sam, and our parents. And we didn't know anybody in Nashville really. A couple people, but we had no friends, no family. We were both done school, so we didn't really have any feeling of community, which was kind of liberating in a way because it's a completely fresh start. And we came here and we were just playing open mics and meeting people, and now here 2 years later, it's funny to think back to when we first arrived and we knew nobody, and now we have all these great friends, and it's really great.
What was the first thing you guys did when you got to Nashville to further your music career?
The first thing we did when we moved to Nashville was play open mics. I think it must have been the first or second night we went out, and I think the entire first week that we were here in Nashville, we must have played an open mic every single night. And the most interesting thing to us, I think the very first night, we played in a songwriter round on a stage somewhere in Nashville. And it was the oddest thing for us to be on stage with two other writers that we had never met before and take turns singing our song and then listening to the next guy's song, listening to the next guy's song, and then afterwards getting off stage and meeting these other people who are trying to make it as songwriters.
Did you guys have a definite plan when you got here to Nashville?
Our plan when we moved to Nashville was come to town, play gigs, get discovered, get signed by a major label, and become very famous. 2 years later, we have learned that that is not exactly how it happens. It's a long road, but it's very very fun, and it's a lot more casual than I think we anticipated here in Nashville. It's a lot more about friendships, meeting different writers, going and writing at different publishing houses on Music Row, and slowly developing your connections with people. And I feel like in Nashville, it's not an instant you meet someone, okay, you're signed. It's a relationship building town, and it takes time for all these things. Just because you meet someone that's high up in the music industry doesn't mean that anything's going to come of it, or that or that something will come of it. Doesn't mean that it's going to happen right now. It might take months. And to relax with that system here.
Have you found what you expected you would find when you got to Nashville? when you were sitting in Vancouver and you were thinking, we're going to move to Nashville and it's going to be like this. And then when you actually got here, what did you find that you didn't expect, or that you did expect?
You know, I don't know what we expected to find upon moving to Nashville. I don't really know what we expected to find. It's always seemed like we're going down a road, but the headlights only go so far, and the rest is the dark. And somehow you move forward a little bit, and you can see just a little bit next to the path lit up. So it's always been a question mark. So I guess in that sense, we didn't really know what we expected to find in Nashville, and we still don't know what's coming around the corner.
How does the music scene in Nashville compare to the music scene in Vancouver?
The music scene in Nashville is very different, I think, than the music scene in Vancouver because of all of the writing that goes on. There's such big business here in country music, with all the labels being just 20 minutes away downtown, all the publishing houses being right there in the city, and driving down the street and being like, oh, that's Brad Paisley's publishing house. Oh, that's the label where Tim McGraw is signed or whatever. That's not really a thing in Vancouver. It is kind of a thing, but not on such a grand scale. And and I think really the biggest thing is the writing, the fact that there's all these writers here trying to write these songs to get cut on major records.
Tell me some of the pros and cons to living in Nashville. Good things and bad things that you've noticed that you've been here.
I think definitely the pros of living here are that people are nice. I think in general, people are very nice here, and the songwriters seem to get along with each other, which has been really fun for us to make friends with these other people that are just trying to make it like us. And the cons of living here, I don't really know if there are too many cons. It's been such a positive experience for me and my brother.
Well, besides Nashville being a mecca for music, since you've been to Nashville, what are some of the things in Nashville that you think are appealing or interesting to you that is not so much music related? You've been here a couple of years now.
My favorite thing about Nashville that's not music related is the fact that there are so many trees. The trees, I feel like that might sound silly, but there are so many trees here. It's a comforting thing. I feel like they've really left it quite untouched here, and it really is a calming environment.
What would you tell other people who are thinking about moving to Nashville to be a songwriter? What advice would you give them before they moved here? What to think about as they move here?
If I was to give advice to songwriters that are thinking about moving to Nashville, it would definitely be that you're never going to make it on your own in this town. It's all about joining with other people and collaborating to get ahead here.
That's a good answer. Are you happy you moved here?
I'm so happy we moved here.
Do you have any regrets about moving to Nashville?
I don't think I regret really anything about moving here. Yeah, actually, you know what? I think the only thing I really regret, I hate to say regret because there's so much positive stuff in Nashville. The only thing that I miss from home is all the family we had and the friends and the community that we had there.
Let's talk about some of the successful things that's happened to you since you've got to Nashville. I know you guys have done a lot of stuff. Tell me about some of your successes here, in your view.
After moving to Nashville, I feel like we really learned how to write songs, or at least we learned more about what a really truly great song is, and we are aspiring to continue writing songs that we feel are closer to that level. I think that's the biggest thing that we have. I think that's the biggest thing. I think that is the best thing that has happened to us since we've moved to Nashville, is learning how to craft songs. Also, since we've been here, we've auditioned for The Voice, blind audition for The Voice, which is really cool. We're not actually sure how they found us, but that happened after we moved to Nashville. And yeah, I think it's mostly learning to write the songs.
Let's talk about the songwriter community. You talked about networking and the importance of it and all. Tell me about the songwriting community, your impressions of the songwriting community in Nashville.
Songwriting community in Nashville is interesting to me, I think, because it's very business centered. Well, it's kind of like in the center, there's the songwriters that are writing for the major publishing companies and getting songs cut by people like Rascal Flatts or whatever. And then the outskirts, there's all these songwriters that are constantly coming in and going out. People move to town and they try to break in. They try to get into that inner circle. And some people manage to do it, but some don't. So it's kind of it's got levels to it, where the songwriters sit.
If you had to do this over again, would you have done it the same way you did it this time, coming to Nashville?
If we had to move to Nashville over again, I think we probably would have done the same things we did the first time around. Basically just meet people, sing our songs, play as much as possible, and try to get better at writing songs.
Tell me what's the best thing or the coolest thing about being a songwriter in Nashville?
I think the coolest thing about being a songwriter in Nashville is because you get to write with so many other songwriters. Every time you write with a different songwriter, they have something in their style that's not part of your style. And you get a kind of, you learn a lot, and you're able to broaden your style of writing from collaborating with so many different writers. It's really like it's like a school almost. You get to learn from each other. That's really what I think is great about being here in Nashville.
Is there anything that I didn't cover that you think is important to let someone know that was thinking about moving to Nashville? Did I totally miss something? Is there something in the back of your head you say, oh yeah, well if you're going to come to Nashville to be a songwriter, you really need to think about this?
I think if you're thinking about moving to Nashville and you want to be a songwriter, I think a thing that's really important to do is, if you're trying to have success, big time success in Nashville, which we don't have, but what we're aspiring to do is look at the songs that the big writers are producing out of Nashville and try to see if you can find something just by listening to them and looking at how they're constructed and trying to see what the mechanics are behind them. And I think if you do that before you move to Nashville, you're going to be ahead of the game.